Yeah, because if you think about it, it's like that's like paying like $45 for a GI Joe.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
Acid Rain World.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. This is Good Morning Toy World, your source for semi-premium, adult-related toy content. I am your host with the most, your ghost with the most, your one and only Pepperoni, and joining me, as always, via satellite, no title today, Tony Velocity. Did you want to say hello to the people, Tony?
Sup?
Yeah, they're
I
doing
kind
good.
of like the no title. That makes things run easier and quicker.
It makes things go a lot smoother. So
Gives me less of
today,
an aneurysm. That's good.
so today is a special day. We are having Nate the Milkman, my man crush. When he listens back to this, he's gonna be like, "What the fuck?" But it's true. We're gonna have Nate the Milkman here on the podcast, so we'll get him on the call in a minute here. But Tony and I were just shooting the shit about Acid
Yeah.
Rain World.
Love them, hate them. Love
Obsessed
to
with
hate
them.
them, hate to love them.
I'm obsessed. Like,
What are your thoughts on Oratoy?
it's crazy like how much influence we all have on one another because like pics started showing up of Acid Rain World stuff, and like I've always admired Acid Rain World. I've always thought it was very cool because it's a GI Joe that's essentially a 3A. Like, it's this grimy, gritty fantasy post-apocalyptic potentially world of grimy diesel soldiers, and
Yeah.
they all look great. But now, like, I did some reckless pre-ordering on BTS, and then also a reckless cart with currently like 4 in that I'm like, do I press buy? And I'm like, I don't press buy, but I want to press buy. Maybe I just get 2. I don't know.
Do I try? Do I try and buy? Yeah.
Do I try and buy? Yeah, it's really, really cool. And the more I look at them, the more I want them. So damn everyone in the Discord who is excited about it, because you're making me want to spend money I don't have.
Yeah, that's fair. I've always really liked them as well, and I really liked the style of the vehicles that they've done. It's just every time I try to put one down on order, like Diamond just kind of shits the bed
Yeah.
and just doesn't get them. So I was supposed to have had like their bigger stronghold robot. Like, if you look up Acid Rain World, the big robot that they have, that is the one that I was supposed to be getting. And then 2 of the little speeder bike guys. Mostly because I want a couple figures to go with the robots too. So I ordered those, was waiting on them, and they were supposed to have shipped out a couple months ago. And Diamond did the thing where they're just like, shipping date to be determined, which means it might show up at some point, or it might just be canceled forever.
We've determined your shipping date is never.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because there was one time where a 3A piece, it was the Crystal Jade Vaughn Milky Girl. That sounds really bad.
I mean, all 3A stuff sounds like it's straight out of a fanfic, so.
It kind of does, doesn't it? Yeah, the Beaver Industries Milky Girl.
Yeah, that one.
Anyway, it was a figure that I really liked, and I really liked that artist too, and it was cool that she was doing a 3A piece. So it was like a perfect storm for me. I put down the order on it, and I was waiting for it to come in. They're just like, yeah, fuck it, to be determined, probably canceled though, eat shit and die. I'm like, oh, thanks, Diamond, you're fucking reliable. And it sucks, because I'm trying to be like, hey, we can get stuff in for the shop, and we can get cool, unique things in too. And then, like, it's one of those things that's just like, yeah, no, fuck you, you're in Canada, eat, go away.
Eat, go away.
Eat, go away.
Eat
I
dicks and
don't
go
want to
away.
say eat shit 5 times in the same, like, rant.
Yeah,
So.
that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, but that actually showed up randomly, like, a couple months after it was, like, no longer available.
That's crazy.
So sometimes it might work, sometimes it might not. I don't know. I just hope for
Yeah.
the best.
Like, and back to Acid Rain World.
Yeah.
The price point's a little high, but if you're in America and you're paying American dollars for your American toys, well, actually for your Hong Kong toys, if you're paying American dollars though for like a $26, $30 figure, it's not that bad. Like, the price point's, I guess, comparable to a Marvel Legend, which maybe because of the size differential is hard to swallow, but like, I don't know, they're artisan and they're neat and they're awesome. But then once you're in the glorious land of free healthcare and maple syrup, that comes at a price which is doubling that. So like you're essentially like paying like 45, almost $50, and once shipping's included, you're paying like $50 essentially for a GI Joe.
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy, but
like, that's kind of what kills a lot of the drive to collect certain things.
Totally, but I find Acid Rain World far more compelling than I do a Marvel Legend.
Yeah. Well, because it has that like niche and like, I mean, just the quality, knowing that they're all hand painted and they are all like developed in a certain way. It's like, okay, this is like, yes, of course,
we're
they were
fucking
made.
toy snobs, aren't we?
That's fine. I feel like we have to be like, it's
We're a niche within a niche.
yeah. I mean, like, as someone that does collect stuff like Marvel Legends and Transformers and things like that, those are kind of like having a snack. I feel like I've used this allegory before, where it's like you're kind of peckish, you want something, so you go to McDonald's and just nom, cool. I'm satiated for now. But like something like an Acid Rain World or like Figma for me, or like SHF, something that is
it's
a little bit
a lot
bigger.
more like getting a hand job in like a wood fire pizza place in the bathroom.
Yeah, there we go. Or I was gonna say it's like going for ramen and then ordering a liter of sake by accident and paying way more than you wanted to. But you're like, I'm not even mad. I'm satisfied. This is great.
That's way better. That's way better than my hand job in a wood fire pizza place.
I mean, now I kind of want one of those too.
A wood fire pizza or an HJ?
So the next time you come to town, I'm gonna give you a big old 5-knuckle shuffle and the Tio Taverte or Via Taverte. We might get kicked out again.
Yeah. I don't want to get banned from my favorite pizza place for HJs.
I want to get you banned from your favorite pizza place.
Under the table knuckle bumps. I don't know.
I want to jerk you off in a Pizza Hut.
On that terrible, awful note, let's get our guest, Nate the Milkman, in on this call. So Nate, if you don't know, is an Arizona-based Sofubi artist. Wonderful guy. Met him at 5 Points, and he agreed to come do the show. So we're having a guest, which is exciting. So let's get him in here.
Let's do it. I'm helping. So I've got this window on a different monitor. So I'm probably gonna be like looking off to the side a bunch. Hopefully that's not weird.
I mean, you made it weird by acknowledging it.
I'm gonna make it weirder. Don't worry.
So we've got Nate the Milkman in the call. Do you want to introduce yourself to the people listening?
Sure. So I'm Nate McCartney, or Nate the Milkman. Kind of a self-taught artist. Been doing the whole toy mess now for about 5 or 6 years, off and on. Started off with vinyl sculpture, or not vinyl sculpture, excuse me. Just started off with basic sculpture stuff with Super Sculpey, things like that, making resin figures, and then dove into painting vinyl shortly after that. So yeah, that's a little bit of history for you.
Hell yeah.
Cool. Well, that's rad, man.
So you... the piece that drew me in and the piece that got us talking was your angry stomach.
Okay.
And so how long ago did you start that project with the stomach?
So he started off as a painting originally, and I actually have the painting here.
Oh, nice.
I don't know how to switch the. There we go.
Oh, cool. Whoa.
So started off as this big guy here, and it was a character that myself and Allie Wiederin came up with. She goes by Zombie Poop on Instagram.
Excellent.
I approve
handle.
of the name.
And we started this, I would say 2015 or so was when this came about. And she actually did the original character design as far as the shape. I just did details like the mouth, eyes, accessories like the headband and, headphones and things like that. So painted him. And then from there, because I got into the toy thing, collecting a lot, I decided that, why not make a toy out of him? even if it was just for me and nobody liked them. I was kind of ready to have the biggest collection of them if that was the case. So thankfully it worked out, and there's some folks that definitely dig them. So that way I can continue making, different polls and, customs and things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So was the character just simply born out of a design, or is there like a deeper meaning behind it about how at some point in all of our lives we've had a terribly angry stomach?
That's part of it. I myself have had terrible stomach issues for a lot of my life. I have a lot of food allergies. So that's kind of where a lot of it came from. Was I wanted to make a character that was kind of the personification or embodiment of that feeling. Just being nauseous or sick to your stomach a lot.
Yeah, totally. Your collecting habits, were you always a toy collector, or did you have a dark time between like your youth and your adulthood with collecting where there wasn't a lot happening, or?
Yeah, I started off as a kid. I collected, like He-Man and stuff like that. But as I became a young adult, there was definitely a time where I wasn't collecting anything like that. I collected knives for a while as a young teenager, which was kind of interesting.
Interesting and troubling for your parents. He's got a lot of knives.
Well, they were really supportive of it too. They'd come home with new knives or something that my dad would find at like an auction or something.
Yeah,
like that.
getting whetstones for Christmas.
Yeah, stuff like that. I got a hatchet for Christmas once, if that puts it into perspective.
Okay, that's probably the coolest Christmas present I've heard of in a while. That's
kind of a normal thing when you're. I grew up in Nebraska, so I wasn't a farm boy or anything, but a lot of my friends that grew up in the same area were, so it was very hunting and stuff like that. So knives were big, but went from toys to knives and music, musical instruments, stuff like that. I collected. Then I got back into toys.
Cool.
What sort of toys were the ones that like opened the proverbial floodgates for collecting again? Like, what was the thing that jumped off the shelf or jumped off the page and you're like, this is amazing and I need to be a part of this?
I think it was I probably butcher the pronunciation, so sorry for anybody that knows how to say this correctly. But the Shikabane Izu monster figure, it was a clear version that had like plastic tubing through it and a very minimal paint job. And I saw it on a Yahoo auction. And I immediately saw it, and of course it wasn't available, so that, really piqued my interest at that point, because you want what you can't have, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So from there, it was finding out there was this whole world behind, that kind of toy. And finding out there were a ton of different artists that were making, crazy, creepy looking stuff that, you couldn't get as a kid. And I think that's what a lot of us are doing. I don't know about you guys, but collecting for me nowadays is getting stuff that didn't exist as a kid.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. It's being like, this would have been rad growing up, or like newer takes on things that you're like, when you see a lot of the toys that you had growing up, you're like, wow, this is kind of, the imagination really made this look a lot cooler when I was younger. But then when you get like a noticeable upgrade of something, you're like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted. So, oh, rad.
Yeah, the old Masterpiece Optimus Prime scenario.
Yeah.
You're like, this is substantially cooler than anything that existed when I was a kid.
Right?
Yeah.
So you said that you collected instruments. Do you play any as well?
Yeah. Been involved in music as long as I can remember. Started out playing guitar when I was 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
A lot of self-taught stuff. Once again, just living in a small town, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to like get lessons, or, and before the internet was a really accessible thing, and before it was used to share information like that, like there weren't, walkthrough videos on how to how to play instruments or things like that in the 90s or early 2000s. So a lot of self-taught, music stuff. If I could get my hands on the instrument, I tried to learn how to play it. So saxophone and things like that in high school as well.
Sweet.
I played in an indie rock band in the early 2000s, actually, from I want to say like 04 to 08, called Grace Gale on Creep Records,
Okay.
out of Downingtown, Pennsylvania. Yeah, the band was stationed in Boulder, Colorado, but yeah.
Oh, that's like Logan's favorite place.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I have the most mixed feelings about Boulder and Denver. It's like, it was really cool to hang out with my brother for a week, but like, there's nothing here. Like, I just didn't do anything. Yeah.
Cool.
Although
Do you still play in any bands, or do you still like pick up an instrument and give it a go, or?
Oh yeah, at least a little bit every day.
Okay.
Definitely more into like keyboards and synthesizers these days than
Nice.
guitars and saxophones, like where I started.
All right, so I'll be expecting a synthwave or like retrowave solo album coming out hopefully in the near future.
Any day now.
Yeah, it's definitely in the works right now.
So you've always done fine art as well, like painting and drawing and things like that.
Yep.
And you were doing that all throughout your gap before making toys.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you started collecting again, was it this instant thing where you're like, I have to turn this into a toy, like all of this creative energy, or were you a collector for a while before you started sculpting and making toys?
I was a collector for I'd say probably about a year or so before I got into wanting to make something in vinyl. I was still doing like resin casting and things like that around the same time I started to collect.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, seeing, that figure I mentioned, before on the Yahoo auction, I think that, kind of planted the seed for me to where I really wanted, later on to make things in vinyl or, different mediums that are a lot lighter and felt more like a toy, that you'd have when you're a kid or that you can go to the store and buy today.
Right.
Yeah, because like I feel a lot of people who get that spark and they're like, I need to make toys, go the sort of Sucklord-esque route where they're like, time to sculpt something and make a silicone mold and pour it in resin and here we go, this is a toy. And like, there's definitely a place for that, and like it's something I've done as well. So it's like it's fun and it's exciting, but at the end of the day, when you're holding it, you're right, like even to like the tactile touch, it's like this is very cool and this is exciting, but it isn't a Star Wars figure. It isn't a toy. It doesn't feel the same as when you hold an actual toy. So
yeah, I agree with you. I don't know if this is a good example, but drawing a sign or painting a sign versus, having a billboard put up, it kind of has this, wow factor that you don't get from, home production.
Yeah, true.
It's still satisfying because you made it with your own hands, doing the resin casting and things like that. And there are some, things out there that I'm just blown away by that people are able to produce on their own without the help of, professional factories and things like that. So there's definitely that, positive around it, but there's this other feeling that you get from, receiving a box full of toys, from Japan or China. It's just crazy to see your stuff made. Somebody,
absolutely.
like I get you're paying them to do it, but this factory spent time, whether it's a mom and pop factory or a large organization, they spent time making your design in a different format, and it's wild.
Yeah, totally. Especially with like Sofubi, the fact that like these things are like poured by hand and processed by hand and pulled by hand and trimmed by hand. Like it's an actual human being making this product, which is another thing that sort of separates it from like, I don't know, a Marvel Legend. Like that's pumped out of a factory almost comedically on an assembly line and there's no real people involved. Whereas Sofubi production, it's like, yep, this is someone's house that is now a factory, and it's a mom and pop pulling plastic.
Mm-hmm. And they'll still do like a couple hundred runs in like a day, and you're like, holy shit, guys.
And it feels exclusive too. I'll admit, it takes a lot of time and patience to even get something made. So, beyond what I just mentioned, as far as people spending time on it for you, but it's once again wow factor. Like I can't believe that I'm holding something in that toy format that I made.
Oh, that's cool. I feel like that's like the dream for anyone that's ever like dabbled in making toys. Like that's the end goal of like, getting that box, opening it up and being like, this is me. I did this. And yeah, I definitely feel that like I haven't felt that. I haven't made anything, but like again, at some point that feeling is one that I hope to feel at some point.
Well, like, another thing too with like just the quality that comes with like your patience and waiting and figuring out how to get it done, and then eventually your toy arrives. Like you now have this thing that represents your vision, in like the perfect form. Whereas with pouring resin, back to pouring resin, it's like you finish your product and you pull it out, and it's like, this is a piece of plastic. I turned part A and I turned part B into this thing, and now it's time to sand it and trim the flash and try and present it and hope that it's understood. And I just found like my whole quest through like resin stuff, the only thing I ever really got out of it, other than like seeing my ideas become like a physical thing, was meeting Tony. Like Tony is like my first and only customer, and now I talk to him once a week for an hour all the time. But like it's I don't know. The artist quest is such like an interesting thing, because you're trying to turn this like cacophony of like ideas and concepts into something tangible, and then once it's there, it's time to present it to the world and see how the world reacts. I don't know. Tangent
that's
over.
Fun. that's the most fun. It's kind of, I'll admit there's kind of some satisfaction even when people hate it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Like, I don't know, art for me has always been, like you said, putting together, something, your idea, your story, your feelings into something someone can hold or look at if it's on a wall, or, and if they hate it, that's a reaction, I'd rather people love it, of course.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's the goal. You want people to like what you make, but, and I'm not saying like those unsung, like, folks that I just don't like it, and they don't talk about it, but it's the folks that go out of their way to like talk smack about it. Like, I love that, because it's like you spent time and energy today
trying to quantify what you don't like about my art.
And I like that, because if anything, it's a mouthpiece. It's free advertising, which is great. But it gets that conversation going.
Yeah, and I guess true. Because the stomach and the art you're doing is in the realm of grotesque as far as Sofubi goes, that in and of itself is an aesthetic that I imagine some people just find generally offensive.
Yeah, some people don't dig it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, have you ever gotten any like really bad reactions like to your face from people like at conventions or shows?
No? Never had a to my face bad reaction or bad interaction in the scene at all.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense, really, because like we're all there to participate in this thing we love, and even if it's not our specific niche within the niche, I feel like I've said niche within a niche a lot today.
It's if it's not their subject.
Specific taste, like obviously they're not going to be like, I fucking hate that, because like supporting it in general is what everybody's there for, even if it isn't their specific thing.
So. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
not like people go to car conventions to pick fights with the Corvette guys. Oh, maybe they do. I don't. I don't know.
I've been to some conventions where like things get a little bit heated, and it's like, really, dude, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I've seen things get heated. It's usually from collectors that are upset that they didn't get something that they were shooting for.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, that's a bummer. Nobody likes to lose,
Yeah.
quote unquote. But,
Yeah, a lot of times with stuff like that. Like, I've just been finding out about the whole Sotheby lotteries and things like that. And, yeah, a lot of times now it's the luck of the draw. So, I could understand being frustrated if you lost all the lotteries that you entered. But, like, I don't know, most of the time people that seem to enter things for these shows, they come out with something that they've been looking for. So, yeah, just calm down, guys. There's plenty of toys out there.
Exactly. There's plenty to go around.
So, with all your creative endeavors, what does the future hold for you? Like, what are your goals and dreams and hopes for all of your various projects?
Well, Stomach, I'd like to, continue putting out runs of him, definitely, until people are sick of him. And then I'll just make them for me.
Nice.
I do have another toy that's very close to being done. A lot of big things with it as well. From trying to do something a little bit different. I know a lot of the. I don't know. I've seen kind of like some toy rules and stuff like that when it comes to making certain toy types. I'm going to step outside of some of those rules, and there might be a cartoon in the works. Definitely a comic book. So some supporting things that you'll get along with the figure as opposed to just the figure. Which, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I want to create kind of a world behind the character, instead of here it is, kind of figure it out. Yeah. I did that very much so with Stomach, and it took a little while for folks to figure it out. Understandably so. It's a weird looking figure.
Yeah, it's very unique because it's not like humanoid in form.
Yeah.
Which is a departure from what most people are doing within the realm of soft vinyl, for sure.
Yeah, it's abstract for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have that toy coming out. Depending on how that goes, the success of that toy, there's going to be some supporting characters, things for characters to ride, which will make much more sense once the toy comes out. So
and which medium
holds.
are you using for the toy? Is it going to be Sofubi as well?
It's going to be soft vinyl, but not Japanese soft vinyl.
Okay.
Yeah, so made in China by Gums Productions, who's produce Draculasers, figures. Who else? Kyle Harper, Kill 66 Art, Travisius. I'm probably saying his brand wrong. Travisius Toys, Killer Bootlegs. That's some stuff made by him as well. Yeah. So it'll be that same type of material.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Cool. I'm excited to hear about the whole comic and cartoon and like the multimedia thing. Like it's really cool when you do see like more than just a toy. Like it sometimes it is fun to get the play with it. The adventure is yours. But having kind of like a little bit of a this is what's going on with this character. Like that's pretty cool. So and that must be like really gratifying to be able to be like, I have this story in my head and this is how I'm going to show it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I worked a lot with a lot of different artists to make it happen instead of being kind of siloed off on my own like I did with Stomach. I worked with a local sculptor to kind of bring my idea to life.
Okay.
So out here in Tucson. I worked with an artist in Australia for the header card art. The guy in California is doing all my animation stuff. So
you're pulling together a bunch of like-minded individuals to make the project come to life?
Yeah, folks that have done things kind of in the same vein of what the figure is, kind of already, the idea and story behind the character, they fit, so to speak, with that style. So, and luckily enough, they weren't too expensive for me to get it done.
That's good.
Thank you to everybody that knows that they were involved. I'll announce everybody later. But if they listen to this, thank you guys, because couldn't have made it this far without you.
Please do listen to this.
yeah. Everybody with talent and influence, please listen to our podcast. So when is the tentative announcement? Like when do you want to present this to people, or is there too many moving parts to nail down a time?
I'm literally just waiting on an email from the factory on when I'll have vinyl in hand, and then the animation should be done this weekend or sometime this week. Having
Nice.
card art around the same time, so I made the original deadline on DesignerCon, but that seems way too far away. With how close things are to being done, so I'm hoping within the next month or so.
That's
damn,
awesome.
That's super cool.
And are you going to be just using Instagram as the platform to show this to people? Like once you have some of the promotional stuff ready?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, that type of thing. I'm not as well versed with Facebook. I tend to avoid it, but
yeah,
that's fair.
It's
up and stuff there.
yeah, it's a nightmarish hellscape where everyone's watching you, but yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Family members and keyboard warriors. And...
Yeah. Everyone's mom is mad at me. I don't know why.
Why is everyone's mom mad at me?
Why is everybody pissed? Oh my god, I remember. I might have even told this story at one point on the podcast. But back in the early days of Facebook, I didn't fully understand the ramifications of what it meant to post things. And I saw this terrible porno, and it was just something like really ridiculous. Like it was like 2 priests and a nun, but somebody had like devil horns. It was like the weirdest shit I'd ever seen. And I didn't find it in the least bit erotic. I just found it fucking hilarious. And I posted it to one of my buddy's walls, which again, this is like the year Facebook launches. I don't fully understand. And then the very first comment is a friend of a friend's like mom being like Raymond is friends with Derek's little cousins. This is not okay. Deleted the post, but like, oh man, just what a hilarious misunderstanding. Because I thought I was in this magical realm, like our IRC was, where like nobody knows who I am. I can just do whatever the fuck I want.
Right?
Apparently not okay.
IRC days. Wow.
Oh yeah, back in the
Yeah.
back in the old chat rooms, and I think that's why I like Discord so much.
Yeah.
Is it kind of brings you back to that.
Yeah. It's the good old days where you can post whatever you want within reason.
I'm allowed to ban whoever pisses me off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good times. Oh, cool. Do we have any questions? I think there's a couple questions from the podcast, or from the Discord. We're the podcast.
Yeah, we're a podcast. We have a Discord, and they have asked a couple questions. If you don't mind, Nate.
No, not at all. Not at all. Fire away.
Lucas asks, what are some things you would fight about? Lucas is notorious for having some of the worst questions. I'm gonna personally say love, not money. I don't know.
I would fight for love. Never money. I would fight for respect if it was worth it.
That's a good one.
Tony's like good ramen. Is that Tony's answer?
Things I would fight. Oh man, I say this for everything. That is a loaded question, which means I have a non-answer.
All right, we'll move on to.
Thanks, man.
Hachi-Maki.
Thank you for that. I appreciate. Yeah, just gloss over me.
What? I thought you.
I'm gonna fight you right now. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna fucking.
I thought you were going non-answer.
No, it's just a weird. It's a weird one. Like things I've fought about dumb shit before, and I've totally brushed over stuff that does matter. So
Tony's talking black eyes over Pokemon cards.
No, I've never fought anyone over a Pokemon card, but like Yeah, again, I guess it's like, yeah, fight over love is one of, I know I've gotten into fist fights over gals before. But
So
like,
valiant.
oh, and then also because one of my friends was drunk, and the only way we could calm him down
Was to fight him.
was to fight him. Well, he was like, "I've never been in a fight. Fight me, fight me." And we're like, "Okay." Yeah. It's midnight, my birthday, and we're running around. It did actually, and he was like, it was weird because it was my birthday, but it was his housewarming party, so it was like a perfect storm of people just bringing booze. And at some point we just kind of like lost him, and he had like this weird moment. And it was me and another friend that tried to like find him and track him down, and he lived in like not the super fancy neighborhood of town, but one of the nicer ones where like you'd probably get the cops called on you from a concerned parent if they saw you trudging around through the front lawn. So we're like, come back to your house, we'll take you. He's like, no, I'm not going anywhere until I get into a fight. And we're like, fine, we'll fight you, but it has to be on your front lawn. So we get on the front lawn, and he like gets ready, and he starts like doing a couple swings, and I'm sober at this point too, so I'm able to like kind of miss and everything, and I'm like, fuck, okay, all right. And then my friend's like, okay, Chris, Fight Club Ian, and I. So that's his name is now Fight Club Ian, because of this situation. Yeah. So Chris pulls me over. He's like, okay, I know what to do. I'm going in. Hang out back here. We're like, all right, cool. And like, you know, we landed a couple hits on each other and stuff like that. It wasn't too much. Chris goes in and gets his nose broken.
Oh gosh.
There's blood everywhere. Fight Club Ian realizes what happened. He starts crying. Like, it was just a big. There's a big group hug that happened. It was pretty great. Next morning, I got home, took a shower and everything, and like looked in the mirror, and I'm like, "Oh, what is that?" There's like this blood on my face. I'm like, I don't know whose blood though. So that was the last like fight that I've had, and. What are things you would fight about? Drunken shenanigans. And love.
I take it back. Lucas asks good questions.
You got one good question, Lucas. Don't fuck it up, dude.
Hachimaki asks, how would you make a metal mold to use for casting vinyl? I'm asking for a friend. I mean... I don't know if we really expect you to give a step-by-step, but I guess the short answer would be is get someone else to do it, right?
That's definitely the short answer.
Yeah.
You're going to want to, do your research as far as different places to start. There are different companies out there that can basically make the whole process work for you. Companies like Lulu Bell, Gums Productions, Science Patrols, I believe. I'm sorry if I'm dropping your guys' names and you're not accepting new work. I apologize.
We're okay,
they can handle everything. Okay. But you can start with those folks. They can kind of walk you through it or just give you an idea. Be prepared for the cost. It's not exactly cheap in the grand scheme of things. Not everybody has, $2,000 to $5,000 just lying around to go, hey, make me a toy. And it can be more or less than that, depending on what you're working with. There are companies out there that will do your mold only, and then it's up to you to cart things over to the factory from there. I don't have experience with that. But yeah, that's without getting too deep and wordy on you guys.
Yeah.
Not that I'm an expert, but that's just from my experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I know it's all good. I'm sure he would also appreciate if you were to get wordy, but like...
But that's like a different like video or project all in and of itself.
That would be a full podcast of like how to make a mold / your vinyl toy done in an hour.
What I will say, before you even reach out to any of those folks, have your sculpt ready to go. Have it sculpted in something that isn't going to break on the way, and also be okay if you're going to send the original overseas. If it gets lost, know that's your original. So I'd recommend making a resin cast master, version that you can send over. So if it gets broken, you're cool. You've got a mold to reproduce it. Get that all in order first. Take some great pictures, get measurements, and then send emails with as much information as you can to these folks, telling them what type of timeline you're looking at and what you expect as a customer. And you really can't go wrong. Yeah.
I think like any good art project, it starts really with having your concept and your idea locked down in your head, and then just going from there. And I think like having that original sculpt and that concept, and essentially having your prototype ready is the first step, because like you don't want to start a dialogue with someone and have nothing to produce.
Yeah, oh, that's cool. Would you recommend having more than one thing ready to go? Like if the factory's like, oh, we can't do this, but instead of just closing communication, like, all right, well, here is another thing that I want to get done.
Well, kind of know what you want as your end product before you go there.
Okay.
So if you're going through, Lulu Bell and folks like that, you're dealing with Sofubi, if I'm saying that correctly. Sorry, once again.
I think
pronunciation
Sofubi and Safubi are interchangeable.
Yeah. Interchangeable.
Yeah.
But if that's the product that you want, specifically, it's going to be usually a longer process than saying going through like a Chinese company that will kind of crank it out pretty quick for you. And that's usually because there's a waiting list. There's a lot of artists that have projects they're waiting on. So that's another thing to kind of take into account. If you don't mind what the outcome is, as long as it's quality vinyl, you can look at 4 to 5 months turnaround time if you go through a Chinese company versus going through Japan can be a year or more. Just from my experience, Stomach took about it was about a year or so, 10 to 12 months. So if you're patient, go that route. If you need it right away because you got a show coming up that you want to be in, go the other route. Know that there will probably be some collectors that won't want to buy your stuff because it's not Japanese vinyl.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Purists.
I'm not purists,
Is there a way to okay, I'm gonna sound like a clandestine. Is there a way to absolutely tell the difference between Japanese and like a really high quality Chinese vinyl and like, let's say, a lower quality Japanese vinyl?
Well, I only know the difference by smell.
Okay.
Japanese vinyl has a very specific smell. I can only describe it as kind of spicy. I don't know if that makes sense.
I'm down with that.
Other collectors that know what I'm talking about, how would you describe it? But Chinese stuff smells like brand new pool toys. Like you get like a new inner tube or something like that. It smells like that.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that very much like plasticky factory smell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
But I've never had the experience of smelling two different types of vinyl from Japan. They seem to be about the same. Like I smell them, they smell the same.
That's kind of cool too, actually.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't notice really too much of a difference. So it depends on the thickness of the pour, I guess. I've touched Japanese vinyl stuff that I thought was Chinese until I smelled it, just because of the way it felt, because it was thinner of a pour. So I don't know if that maybe kind of lends to a softer toy when it comes to Chinese stuff.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. It's all in the smell. Follow your nose.
So that's actually really, really good advice.
And I thought it was a weirdo until at conventions I look around and I see other, toy dudes smelling the toys. And I'm like,
Giving it a good old huff.
What you're up to?
We've got a really hard hitting question here. Sam the Mop wants to know, do you guys like chocolate milk?
I prefer strawberry.
Ooh, good answer.
So I don't dislike it. That's my answer.
Okay.
What about you, Tony?
Oh yeah, no, I'm pretty. Yeah, chocolate milk's pretty good. I do
feel
enjoy
like
me some chocolate milk.
I used to be super down with Choco Milk, but something changed maybe like 5 years ago. I mean, you are the milkman, so I apologize, but I don't really do milk. I just don't anymore.
Yeah. What did milk do to you, man?
It didn't really do anything to me. It didn't do anything to me other than just like be no longer necessary. I feel like growing up, like I would like just drink a 2 liter of milk. I would just pound it. I didn't care. Milk all day, every day. But then just eventually I didn't need it anymore. You know, I was a baby calf and now I'm a full grown steer, I guess.
My bones are calcified enough. I don't need it.
Isn't that the way milk's supposed to work though? Aren't you only supposed to need it when you're young and developing like any other animal?
I guess
think so. I mean, like you're the milkman. I mean,
actually, this is a great segue into the final question here from NAFTA. He asks, "How does one obtain the title the Milkman?"
So it's kind of a lame story.
Perfect.
It's probably more funny to me than it'll be to anybody else, but it goes back to when I was in Grayscale, that touring band, and we'd stop at different gas stations while we're on the road, and they'd ask me what I'd want. You know, somebody's running in, hey, Nate, can I get you anything? And I'd be known to come out of a dead sleep and say stuff like water and a strawberry milk. So over time, they'd, of course, give me a ton of shit for that. Be like, hey, do you want water and a strawberry milk? Like, well, fuck yeah, I wanted water and a strawberry milk. But over time, it became, yo, Milkman. So that's kind of where it came from.
Nice.
It was actually my MySpace profile name back in those days.
Oh, really? Ooh, so Nate the Milkman goes back quite a while.
Yeah.
So your little splash in your artwork and your logo of Nate the Milkman, that in and of itself has become a character.
So the actual Milkman guy that's all melty. Not really. It was just my buddy DCA Toys. I hit him up because I badly needed a logo and everything I drew up looked like shit. You guys have seen my drawing. Come on.
You needed some branding?
Yeah, I needed some branding, and he made it happen. Between him and I, we talked about kind of Toxie versus a zombified Milkman looking dude. So it's my melty alter ego.
There's definitely some like Toxie in that picture. I was like, that eye is very very toxic Avenger. All right, you know what? In that case, what are some of your favorite trauma movies?
Favorite drama movies?
Trauma.
Oh, Trauma.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is a trauma film.
Okay.
But Desperate Living, have you seen that?
I haven't seen that one, no.
It's the most off-the-wall movie, and I saw it around the time I was watching a lot of different trauma films.
Nice.
But that's the one that really sticks out to me. Outside of that, I don't think a trauma film comes to mind that tops that one because it's so off the wall. So if it's not a trauma film, I don't have a favorite trauma film. If it is, then stamp that one number one for me.
It doesn't. Okay, it looks like you don't have a favorite trauma film then, but it's
someone's got the wiki open.
Maybe. I'm like, whoa! I gotta find out about this. It's done by John Waters though, so that makes a lot of sense. So cool. All right, I'm putting this on the list of stuff I need to watch now.
It's in the queue.
Yep.
It's creepy. Any movie where it involves someone getting a sex change only to cut their new penis off later. It's just
cool.
next level. Next level cinema.
I love how the I don't know what they're called, but whenever you see something and then there's like, here's a quote from something, or here's a quote from this, like movie of the year, emotionally scarred me. There is on the front is just a work of true trash art.
Yeah.
I'm down. Sold. I'm ready.
Also, I think like the title for this podcast is probably Next Level Cinema.
Next Level Cinema.
Nate the Milkman stars in Next Level Cinema.
Coming this summer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I find like, especially summertime is like the perfect time to watch like weird, bizarre, gross movies like that.
I agree. Well, when is not a good time?
Any excuse to stay indoors.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. I am like a horror movies all year round type person, but like, I feel like kind of in the fall I'm more like suspenseful, kind of like Halloween and like revisiting the classics and stuff like that, or like I need to watch The Void, but I feel like I'm waiting until Halloween to go and be like, all right, let's do this, let's watch The Void and then The Ritual and stuff like that. But like the super schlocky, gross out movies from like 70s, 80s, early 90s, that's like summertime, let's do this.
Do you think that's maybe a weird question, but do you think it's maybe because it's around holidays you start thinking about stuff that you used to be into, that you've seen before, because you're coming around those familiar times of like Halloween and Christmas time and shit like that.
That might be it. And like I feel like the mood of those seasons, like everything kind of winds down and it's a little bit kind of like weird and slower paced and kind of spooky as well. You kind of want something more in line with that type of mood, whereas like stuff like this, it's like all bright colors and shit moves fast, and so maybe I'm thinking too much about it. I only had one giant mug of coffee today, so sorry about that. I'm rambling.
It's a mutual interest. We all love a good horror flick.
I would hope so.
Yeah, in a perfect world, everybody does.
What's like top of your list for horror movies right now?
Right now?
Recent shit.
I really liked Hereditary, the one that's just in theaters now. I think that if you were going into that film expecting like a sort of like classic like slasher kind of flick or ghost kind of flick or haunting sort of flick, you might be disappointed. But like, it's so gritty and real, and just watching this family like rip themselves apart at the seams is just like, it's like watching a car wreck in slow motion. It's just like, oh my god. And like knuckles clenched. It was just so like, it made me cringe in the best way. Like,
cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I heard it was very similar to The Witch, which came out last year. Like not similar as in like theme, but movie style.
Yeah, I think it's the same film company, and I think the same production team worked on that, but it's a different director. It's a first-time director.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I like hearing that alone too was like, okay, sign me up. I'm down. I got to check that out. So
I need to see it again. I went to the theater and saw it, and people ruined it by being loud and laughing inappropriately throughout it. So I couldn't really focus, but it really had a lot of great parts that still stuck with me. Like it's one of those movies you walk away, from, and you're kind of creeped out, and it sticks with you for like a day or so.
That's a bummer that people were ruining it for you, because there was one part where people started laughing and it was annoying and distracting, but if it was happening throughout, that'd be annoying. Because I know like the son, that character, his performance is really unsettling, but I think it could be taken as comedic, because it's a little bit like blubbering and strange. But like when I was watching the film, I was invested. Like, I try my best to go in with no expectation and try to see things from the perspective of the characters we're given. And with the son, I don't see it as a weird, uncomfortable performance. I see it as almost like a childhood regression. Like, he's getting more and more afraid and infantile in the way he responds to the things that are happening. And there's one point at which he's like blubbering and crying and like behaving like a total child, and that was the part at which people were laughing, and I was like, come on guys, like shut the fuck up, I'm trying to enjoy this scary ass movie. But
I mean, people laughed during that too, but I felt like it was in my situation, the folks that were like, because there were very few people in the theater, it was like us, an older gentleman with a cough that they were laughing at too, and you know, then this group of teenagers.
Yeah.
I sound like such an old folk. It was a group of teenagers. But they were laughing during that part too, and I felt like it was more of an uncomfortable laugh because they didn't really know how to take it or how to react to it, because it was, like you said, it was almost awkward. The way that he was crying at that part that you're talking about. Like, you're like, oh my God, like he's off it. He's off his rocker. So,
we're now, it's just an episode of Guttural Frequency now.
That's not a thing that exists
R.I.P.
anymore.
Tony's previous podcast.
I used to do a horror podcast, so like for a while it was like horror overload. It was kind of great. It's funny you should mention that as well. I refuse to watch horror movies in theaters only because I can't stand the horror movie crowd. Like this, you'll either get tons of like the dang kids in their teens laughing at like stuff that you're like, what the fuck? And then like when there is a kind of like tension breaking comedic moment, fucking dead silent. You're like, what's wrong with everyone?
Really funny right there, and nobody's.
It's like, just me, and now I've turned into that person,
right?
And then like the people that like freak out and kick the back of your seat when an obvious jump scare happens. I'm just like, no, just no more, please.
This almost ties back into like talking about once you've created your art and you present it to the world. Like I can't imagine like a director at like a screener for a horror film if someone was like laughing at the wrong parts, just being like, oh, I'm misunderstood.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know my audience at all.
Yeah.
These kids were like the opening scene of that movie is just an obituary. That's all it is, and they were laughing during that. And I knew it was over from that.
Oh no! Yeah, and it was brave to open a film that way, because like movies sometimes open with scrolling text or with something to read, but like the fact that it's literally like a cut and paste from a newspaper, like so and so has died, they left behind, and it just like it's uncomfortable, and maybe it's lost on like a newer generation, a younger group of people, because they may have never had to read an obituary, but like. Like to someone who's like, oh, like that teacher died, here's their obituary, that sucks, and it's just like having to read like, oh, this person who was a part of my life is now gone, and this is their obituary. So like when I read that, it's like I've read obituaries of people I've known, and it's like it was troubling, and it's like, oh fuck, like here we go, we're in for some like real shit. And then I guess to someone who may have never had to confront something like that, it's just not, it doesn't make sense to them.
Yeah, exactly.
I read it like you'd see that disclaimer, like the names and dates have been changed to protect. You know, you're like you said, you're in for some shit when you see an obituary or some phrase like that. Like, nobody's laughing when the Star Wars, scrolling shit starts. Like, nobody's totally. Like, oh, this is fun. Like, nobody's laughing about that.
There's a republic that's hilarious.
A New Hope? What happened to the last one? Yeah, maybe that's why I just don't watch movies in theaters anymore, just in general.
I know, I'm going to give one of those, we have this place here in town called Roadhouse that you can go to. And, you sit down at a table, order a steak, and watch a movie.
Oh, cool.
So, hopefully that's a little bit better.
That'd be good. That sounds really cool. As far as I know, we have nothing like that over here.
It's it gets great reviews. Movies are a bit more expensive, of course. You have to make reservations in advance, but I think that would clear out some of the crowd that kind of ruins movies.
Yeah, because only someone who's really interested in cinema in general would want to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I feel like closest thing is like the VIP theater, and they managed to do kind of like a lockout as well by being able to serve alcohol. So even if you don't drink, it's still like, oh, you have to be 19 plus to get in here. But they serve drinks, and I think you can get like a burger or something. But nothing like, ooh, here's your steak dinner, sir. Enjoy your showing of Hereditary.
Yeah, here's
Get this glass of Merlot all over the place, in certain scenes.
Horribly pairing the food with the movie. It's like, here is your green curry, and now let us present Exorcist. Like, here's Silence of the Lamb and your steak.
I don't know, that might be interesting pairing if you like eating stuff, like especially the Silence of the Lamb ones, if it was like something
steak tartare.
Something very close to it, and then they, match it up. That's themed dinners.
I mean, there's themed drinks, so let's get on the themed food.
That reminds me, they have a sandwich restaurant here in town that all of their sandwiches are like based on like serial killer names or like horror movies and stuff like that.
Really?
They're called Serial Grillers. Really good. I think
that is some world-class pun work.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Good stuff, though. Really good stuff. Now I'm rambling. Anyway.
No, that's totally... I kind of want to know, like...
The menu?
What the John Wayne Gacy melt would be.
What
would it just be a pogo corn dog? Like...
I pull it up right now, but I'm not... if you've got your computer machine handy...
Oh, and how?
Cereal Grillers. Delicious.
Cereal Grillers.
Yeah, I think they were on they were featured on like a Food Network show or something. So they started as a food truck and then blew up.
Yeah. There we go. Oh, my computer's gonna think that I'm in Arizona now.
So you're in the world of toys and art where they collide. Are there any sort of like import or domestic sort of on the shelf kind of toys that you're actively interested in? Like things you collect that you would find like locally, like Black Series or Legends or things like that?
Not really. No, I'm sort of out of the conventional box and packaging type of dude.
Yeah.
I don't collect a lot of stuff like that. It's usually, really obscure weird things that I come across in like antique stores, stuff like that. If it's kind of got some creep to it, I'll pick it up. Like I thought this was great. We got this at the swap meet here in town. So it's a canteen that's fashioned to be a hoof.
An animal hoof.
Yeah, it's an animal hoof, but it's got your little cork bottle.
Keeps you hydrated and
and also is strangely macabre.
Yeah. So it's stuff like that.
And is there any element of like childhood reclamation where there's like toys that you would grab because like, oh man, like I totally like played with that in the sandbox? Like, is there any of that you go for?
Not really, outside of collecting things that that designers had their hands on. So Groman, of course, being involved in like Mad Balls and things that I played with as a kid. Of course, I collect that stuff from him today. Some of the Boglin stuff as well as some Tim Clark stuff. And I still have some of my old toys, minus a lot of the He-Man stuff. I've still got my Pet Monster, a couple of Silverhawks figures, some stuff like that. But I don't really go back and try to find that stuff today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, cool.
You're moving forward, which is commendable, because when it comes to collecting and toy collecting specifically, most of us are actively regressing. So
Yeah. We're becoming that kid from Hereditary.
Yeah. Yeah, when your toy takes a dive off the shelf, you just turn into a blubbering, uncomfortable mess.
Depends on the toy, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I've been there before, but
Just weeping on the floor by your toy shelf. Why?
Right? Just with accessories falling through your fingers.
oh god, I'll never see them again. Oh, it's happened too many times. Too many times.
Well, before we close things out here, is there anything you want to plug or tell the people?
Well, the biggest thing, I just wanted to really, thank you guys, first of all, for, inviting me to do this.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to have you.
Yeah.
It's my first one, so I hope it was, in some way interesting to you guys or anybody that's listening. Want to thank everybody that's ever looked at my stuff, whether they liked it, disliked it, bought it, shared a photo, asked me to be involved in a show. Really, I can't say how grateful I am to everybody that's in this scene and what they contribute. I don't think I would be doing anything that I'm doing today without the influence of so many artists. There's too many to even name. And I hope that things continue to move in a positive direction for the scene as well. I've seen a lot of negative stuff, over the, few years I've been involved. And I'm happy to see a lot of that dissolving.
That's good.
And big name artists being okay with interacting with small folks, small name folks like me and being willing to give me honest feedback, not just, hey, your shit sucks, and help me grow as an artist. Yeah, that's really it. I could keep going on how thankful I am, just because it's a dream of mine to even be able to make this stuff, and the fact that even one person picks it up is crazy to me. So, yeah.
That's rad, dude. Yeah, no, thank you so much for agreeing to come on and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, loved having you. Hopefully we'll get you on again or get down to a con. I'll hopefully get down to a con at some point and be able to pick up a stomach in person, because that'd be awesome.
Cool.
That or I'll have to mule one for you if I get my ass to decon.
Realistically, if Logan goes to decon and I can't, there's going to be a few extra bucks in his pocket for that.
Heck yeah. Well, I hope to see you guys at decon. Should be a good time. It was last year.
Oh, awesome.
So why not do it again, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I keep telling myself every year, like, yeah, gotta go to decon. So I think, no, fuck, maybe I'll start squirreling away now.
I don't have booth numbers yet, but I'll be sharing a booth with Expanded Universe and James Groman, kind of like I normally do.
Nice.
So yeah, swing by, say hi. Doesn't matter if you don't have money. Just come by and make fun of my shit. That's just as much fun for me as somebody coming by and saying that's awesome. So
come by and give high fives. That's the main thing.
High fives all the time, or hugs.
Awesome.
If you're that type of person.
Also, you have an Instagram. So if you're not following Nate the Milkman on Instagram, it is at Nate the Milkman, all one word.
Yeah, and I will throw that in the promo section on Discord and pin it for you guys so it doesn't get lost, and you guys can check out Nate's work if you haven't already. All right, and remember, folks, a Boba Fett for a Greedo is a notoriously bad trade. We'll see you next time.
See ya. Cool.
Yeah, thanks so much for being
awesome.
on. That was awesome.
Yeah, thanks.